Okay. Before I did Killing Them Softly, when I was 22, HBO gave me the biggest opportunity of my life at that time. They gave me a half-hour special, but this shit was not like a special, you know what I mean? It was like, it was generic. It didn't even have a title. It was just Dave Chappelle. And I shot it in San Francisco at a place called Broadway Studios, which is on the second floor of a building. And beneath Broadway Studios is a nightclub. And the special was only supposed to be 30 minutes. And I got ready, I practiced, I did all the shit I was supposed to do. And the night that I taped, 20 minutes into my 30-minute set, I'll never forget this, music started blasting from the nightclub underneath. You could hear it real loud, and it fucked my whole show up, and I was devastated. I was a young man. I really believed in what I was doing, and I thought that my dream had been killed. So when I got off stage, I ran down the steps to the alley behind Broadway Studios and where the control trucks are parked, and I kicked that motherfucking door open, and I started yelling at all the producers. I was nobody in show business, just a guy that believed in myself. I said, man, so you fucked everything up. That fucking music, what the fuck were you thinking? And there was a guy who was a big-time producer, I ain't saying no names, and he stood up, and he said, hey, kid, sit the fuck down. He said, we didn't ruin anything. He said, we made a deal with that nightclub to not play music, and they didn't honor the deal. And I said, who didn't honor the deal? And he pointed to a guy. I'll never forget it. It was an old white man sitting in the Ford Taurus by himself. And he said, that guy right there. And I didn't waste no time or ask no questions. I went to that Ford Taurus, and I beat on that window, and I said, open the door, motherfucker, I want to talk to you. And that old man looked at me for 1 second and wisely drove the fuck off. And left me in the alley cussing at anybody who would listen. And 2 minutes later, literally 120 seconds later, couldn't have been any more than that, the doors of the kitchen in the alley of that nightclub underneath Broadway Studios flung open. And that old man was standing there, that same old man with reinforcements. He had 2 big goons with him, and he looked at me, and he was calm as a cucumber. He said, you, come here. I want to talk to you. I didn't know anything about the streets at this age. But I found out later in my life that these men were Russian mobsters. And I don't know what you guys know about the Russian mob, but these are the niggas that killed Denzel in Training Day. And all the producers knew what I was up against. They said, Dave, do not go in there. And I said, fuck y'all. And I walked right into that kitchen, and they closed the doors behind me, and it got dark as fuck in there. And I knew, I'm not dumb, I knew I was in a bad situation. But you have to understand, I believed in what I was doing, and I didn't give a fuck. Just kept cussing at these motherfuckers, telling them how they ruined my life. And that old man couldn't believe that I was talking all this shit. And as soon as I took a breath, he stopped me gently. He said, hey, kid, listen. Your friends lied to you. He said, we made a deal, but your friends never paid me. And when he said that, I realized I was locked in a kitchen. I realized he was telling the truth, which would make me wrong. And the very moment that I realized I was wrong, for the first time, I was afraid. You see, it's a funny thing if you believe you're absolutely right. You can get drunk off the feeling of how right you are. That's why gay people are so mean. But I didn't buckle. You guys would have been very proud of me. I was scared, but I didn't buckle. I said, well then, sir, I owe you an apology. But I believe that no matter what reason that music was playing, it ruined my life. And that old man looked at me with sympathy in his eyes. And he walked over to me and he gently placed his hand on my cheek, which I gotta tell you, is a very emasculating thing to do. I was standing there looking at this nigga's hand on my cheek like, and he said, "You are a real man." And he tapped me on my cheek. Real soft. Just like that. The doors opened back up. The light from the alley flooded into the kitchen. And I just walked out alive. I lived to fight another day. And in that moment, I learned one of the most valuable lessons of my life, and I have to share it with you. And that lesson is this. In your life, in any given moment, the strongest dream in that moment wins that moment. I am a very powerful dreamer. Yeah, I'm not lying. I dreamed tonight, this very night, as a 14-year-old boy, and I am living it as a 50-year-old man. My dreams are very strong. Now, if you guys came here to this show tonight thinking that I'm gonna make fun of those people again, you've come to the wrong show. I'm not fucking with those people anymore. It wasn't worth the trouble. I ain't saying shit about trans people. Maybe 3 or 4 times a night, but that is it. Tired of talking about them. And you wanna know why I'm tired of talking about them? Because these people acted like I needed them to be funny. Well, that's ridiculous. I don't need you. I got a whole new angle. You guys will never see this shit coming. I ain't doing trans jokes no more. You know what I'm gonna do tonight? Tonight, I'm doing all handicap jokes. Well, they're not as organized as the gays. And I love punching down. There's probably a handicap in the back right now, because that's where they usually make them sit. I came here to laugh at transgender people. I didn't know this nigga was gonna make jokes about us. Come on, y'all, let's get the fuck up out of here. Yeah, it's about time somebody let these handicaps have it. They done met their match tonight. Fuck them. One time I was on Capitol Hill, and I seen a handicapped congressman. Madison Cawthorn, that's his name. He's a Republican from North Carolina. And he was shocked because I saw him and I go, "Hello, Congressman." He didn't even know I knew who he was. He turned around. Then I just walked away. I wanted him to see me do something he couldn't do. I skipped. That nigga was mad. He's no longer a congressman. I don't know if you follow politics. I'm not trying to be funny, but he lost his seat. He ran a bad race. Oh, buddy, yes, he did. And you know what he did wrong? He was running for Congress again, and this motherfucker tried to be controversial. He was on all them right-wing podcasts talking all that shit. He was like, Washington is worse than Hollywood. I was at home like, what? He said, these people are disgusting. They have orgies and sex parties and drug parties. And I was thinking, this nigga sounds like Juicy Smouye. He's lying. Now, I don't doubt that they do this kind of shit in Washington. But I doubt he's seen it with his own eyes. Because who the fuck invites a paraplegic to an orgy? So this nigga can roll around and snitch on everybody. I said, there's only one reason you're gonna invite him to an orgy. And you know what that is. Have at it, guys. I can't feel anything. Let's get this bill passed for America. One at a time, folks. Almost 24 years ago was the last time I was on this stage, in this room. I was taping my first 1-hour special. It's called Killing Them Softly. My girlfriend was sitting in that row, pregnant. She's now my wife. The baby that she was carrying, my first child, I smoke weed with that nigga now. And what I remember most about that night was the pressure. Before the show, I had to run out there on the avenue and hand out tickets to anybody who would take them because I couldn't even fill the fucking room. And boy, what a difference 24 short years makes. And right before that time, my father had died. He never lived to see me do it. And when he died, I was inconsolable. I thought I'd never smile or laugh again. And the only thing that got me out of that space was a comedian friend of mine, the late, great Norm Macdonald. That's right. Shout out to Norm. And what Norm did, which I'll never forget, is he knew that I was the biggest Jim Carrey fan in the world. Now, I'm not gonna go all into it, but Jim Carrey is talented in a way that you can't practice or rehearse. What a God-given talent. I was fascinated with him. And Norm knew that. And he called me up and he goes, Dave, he says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, fuck, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. Yes, and Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that. When they said cut, this nigga was still Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey! And everyone said, no! Call him Andy. And I didn't understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello. Andy? Now, in hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed. Because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this nigga was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel. Here we go. Yeah, the handicaps are the new people I punch down on. To be honest with you, I've been trying to repair my relationship with the transgender community because I don't want them to think that I don't like them. And you know how I've been repairing it? I wrote a play. I did, because I know that gays love plays. It's a very sad play, but it's moving. It's about a black transgender woman whose pronoun is sadly nigger. It's a tearjerker. At the end of the play, she dies of loneliness because white liberals don't know how to speak to her. Sad. Speaking of nigger, I've also been working on a book, and this is true. I'm rewriting the American classic, Huckleberry Finn, from Nigger Jim's perspective. It's called The Adventures of Nigger Jim. That's how the book starts. Huckleberry Finn walks up to him and goes, "So you're Nigger Jim?" And he's like, "Yo, I just said Jim." "What's your name, little buddy?" "Huckleberry Finn's my name." "What? Huckleberry? That's your real name?" "God-given." "You know what? Just call me Nigger Jim. It's fine." I don't care if you are black or white or whatever. If you ever meet a white person named Huckleberry, he has less money than you. That is the white, trashiest name I've ever heard in my fucking life. If you have a name like Huckleberry, you're doomed to fail. If I was in court and my lawyer came up and was like, "I am your attorney, Huckleberry Finn," I'd be like, "Uh-oh, I'm going to jail." God forbid I ever go to jail. But if I do, I hope it's in California. Because as soon as the judge sentenced me, I'll be like, "Your Honor, before you sentence me, I just want the court to know I identify as a woman. Send me to women's jail." And as soon as I get in there, you know what I'm gonna be doing? "Give me a fruit cocktail, bitch, before I knock your motherfucking teeth out. I'm a girl just like you, bitch. Come over here and suck this girl dick I got. Don't make me explain myself. I'm a girl." Tough time for the blacks. These are not good times for the blacks. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, right? Police are killing us again. It's a very unfortunate set of circumstances because we were doing very well. You know, America has a racial hot seat. I think we can all agree that that's the truth. And we can also agree that that hot seat is traditionally occupied by African Americans in general, African American men in particular. Although I can see that in recent years, that seat has been occupied by Mexicans, and I dare say Arabs. And we, the black Americans, would like to thank you both for your sacrifice and your struggle. We needed a break. We needed a goddamn break. We all go through something, but at least I can leave my backpack someplace. If you Arab and forget the backpack, you got about 20 minutes before they send that robot to blow your shit up. You can kiss all that engineering homework goodbye, Fuhad. Now ISIS is #1 on the terrorist charts. And ISIS is fucking scary. Because if ISIS catches you, they're going to cut your head off. That's what they do. I've seen them do it on YouTube. It was fucking awful. He looked right in the camera and say, "Obama, I am back." I saw that shit. I said, "Oh my God." Don't like. How is this guy cutting people's heads off on YouTube? I can't even post a dick pic, and this motherfucker is decapitating people. I'm gonna have to change my settings. You know, everyone has it hard, but I think harder than black people and harder than Arabs and harder than Mexicans, you know who has it the worst? Fat black people. It's hard for white people to understand, but that's what I'm saying is very true. Fat black people have a really rough road, because all manner of things kill white people, but you know what kills more black people than anything, more than police and terrorism? Salt, nigga, regular ass table salt. Here, white people are getting Ebola cures and shit, and meanwhile, I'm dying from fucking the flavoring. This is another reason it's hard to talk in America, because, you know, if you talk for a living and see Charlie Kirk get murdered that way, I'm gonna be honest, nigga, I was shook. I mean, Charlie Kirk is the wholesome white guy, and they killed this motherfucker. I said, these whites. We've never seen them like this. They're playing for keeps. And then remember, the next day in the news, when all the information was still shoddy, they came out, they were like, apparently there were transgender messages inscribed on the bullets. I was at home like, oh no! I'm dead as fried chicken. And then weeks later, they said what was written on the bullets. One of the bullets had Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella, Bella, Bella Ciao written on it. Another bullet had written on it, if you're reading this, you're gay. I was at home like, nigga, I'm gonna need to see these bullets. How the fuck is this nigga writing whole paragraphs on bullets? How big are these bullets? What is this nigga, a watchmaker? He can inscribe all this shit on a bullet? I'm not making light of Charlie Kirk dying, but I'm not sure what it means. And I'm not sure I believe what they say it means. I'll tell you what I don't believe. And the whites were quick to say this. They said, Charlie Kirk is this generation's Martin Luther King. No, he's not. Yeah, that's a reach. You know, they both got murdered in a terrible fashion. They both got shot in the neck, but that's about where those similarities end. Because Charlie Kirk is a motherfucking internet personality. No, by design. Fundamentally, he can't function like Dr. King. Internet niggas are negative because they have to be. Because nobody will engage them unless they say shit that makes them upset. That's Charlie Kirk. Could you imagine Dr. King was behaving like Charlie Kirk? Smash that like button and subscribe. Follow me for more content like this. I believe all black people should be free. Change my mind. The Congress took a vote that October 14th will be Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and everybody voted for it. No, I'm not gonna boo it. You can remember, no. Remember that nigga if you want to. And remember him however you want to. But I do know that most of those Congress people voted for that because they're afraid of political violence. I'm telling you, it's easier to talk in Saudi Arabia. I'm not indifferent to people suffering because I know it's hard to be everybody. We blacks, we just got our first big holiday in a long time. Happy belated Juneteenth to the blacks. Juneteenth is a strange holiday, isn't it? It commemorates when black people in Texarkana area of the country first found out they were free. But remember, they were free when they found out. They just didn't know it yet. Very, very interesting holiday. You know, I learned something. It was a wild story. I learned this past Juneteenth of a story that's true, and there was a black man who was in South Carolina during slavery who somehow got granted his freedom by his so-called master. And when his master granted him the freedom, he also gave him a plot of land. Now, it turns out this brother was brilliant. He had a good eye, a good knack for farming. And he farmed this plot of land very successfully and made a lot of money. And this is where the story gets crazy. When he got all that money, this nigga bought some slaves. Have you ever heard this before? This is a true story. Not only was he a slave owner, he became a slave breeder and employed tactics that were so cruel, even white slave owners were like, yo, my man. He was a wild dude, but he did it just because that's what successful people did at the time, and he just wanted to be down. What a fucking tragedy. How can a person that went through slavery perpetrate the same evil on a person that looks just like him? It's mind-blowing. And, shockingly, they're making a movie about him. Ironically, it's called Space Jews. Space Jews. The point of that story is this person was invested in a construct, that was the construct of successful people, and he just followed the roadmap of successful people. He followed what they call an incentive. Now, everyone struggles, but I'm very invested in the gender construct, personally, because I'm a man with kids and a wife, and I like that warm, wet, soft pussy that my wife has. I've been married a long time. I have, man. You know, I talk a lot of shit about my wife, but I love her very much. In fact, you know, you guys wouldn't believe this about me. I'm a jealous husband. It's true. Yeah, let me tell you something. One time I thought my wife was cheating on me. Yes, nigga, yes. That was one of the worst days of my fucking life. I couldn't take it. And I'm embarrassed about it now, but I can talk about it. You know what I did? It's fucked up, but I did do this. I waited. I waited for her to fall asleep. And when I waited a long time, she's Asian. I couldn't tell if she was asleep or not. I was looking at her. And when I was sure she was asleep, you know what I did? I stole the iPhone, took it downstairs and started trying out passwords to see if I could open it. I couldn't figure out the password. Then I remembered it's an iPhone. This shit has facial recognition. I was just like, oh. And that shit opened right up. And I saw a text message in there from a fella named Earl. I don't know anybody named Earl. I woke her up out of her sleep. I said, wake the fuck up. Who the fuck is Earl? And she said, David, what are you talking about? Oh, don't you play dumb with me, bitch. I done opened your phone. Who is Earl? And she said, oh my God, David. That's gay Earl from the hair salon. I said, word, what am I, a dummy? How am I supposed to know this nigga is gay? And she was calm. She said, read his text and look at his pictures. I started reading the text. This fella sure does spell girl with a U a lot. And I switched over and looked at his pictures, and I couldn't believe it. This fella looked gay and still pictures. His mouth was open in every shot. And then I knew she was telling the truth. And then I felt like dumb. I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Here, take your phone. I'm sorry, just go back to sleep. I am sorry, I guess I just been insecure because all this cheating I've been doing. Good night. And she didn't let me leave. She said, well, since you want to wake a bitch up, and then she pulled my phone from under her pillow. I said, what the fuck? She said, who is this bitch in this picture? I said, how'd you open that phone? She said, it was easy, nigga. All I had to do was mash my nose and go like this, and then open right up. I said, what the fuck? She said, who is this bitch? I said, give me that. Oh, girl, relax. That ain't no bitch. This is my friend, Deborah. Now, I gotta tell you, I gotta tell you how this show came to be. You guys know I live in Ohio. In January, when this nigga Trump and Elon made this Doge thing and cut all those government jobs, the housing market in my hometown plunged 20% in the first quarter. And I don't mean to talk like a white. But boy, they did that, didn't they? And then when this nigga deployed the National Guard in my hometown and took the police department from the mayor, oh, DC niggas, we don't like that. But then my governor in Ohio sent our National Guard to police my hometown. And I called these niggas and said, I'm pulling up. Because these niggas is trying to take the chocolate out of Chocolate City. I said, I gotta go home while it's still a city I remember. And then I went on Instagram and saw all the protests in DC, and there was a bunch of white people like, not on our streets. I said, oh no, it's too late. These whites are entrenched. Not on our goddamn streets, you don't. This nigga Trump was talking like he goes out to dinner. It's not like that. Yep. And I gotta tell you the truth. This is not the only city this is happening in. It's happening in California. It's happening in Oregon. It's happening in Illinois. And it's happening in Memphis. And the niggas in Memphis, they might need it. You gotta be reasonable. I don't know if you've been in Memphis recently, but them niggas already stole 2 tanks from the National Guard, so you already know. You already know, you know. And I came here mad, ready to fight, but when I drove through the city, it looked clean, guys. I gotta tell you, it looked clean. A lot better than the last time I was here. Today I only saw one guy take a shit on the street. But you know what? He had a bag. That nigga picked it up. You know, I was in Santa Fe the other night and a motherfucker threw a banana peel at me. Yeah, that didn't feel so good. Of course, it was a white person. Not to indict the whites, I'm just saying. Not to profile. And then not only did he throw a banana peel at me, but it was premeditated. You could tell. You could tell the peel was too brown, you know what I mean? It was like, you didn't eat that banana recently, motherfucker. You had that shit waiting on me. And the whole crowd was white, so it just got instantly creepy, and everyone looked like they were looking at 12 Years a Slave or something. They were all just like, who the fuck does that? And then they arrested the guy, which was... I said, someone's gonna fuck you in the butt in the holding cell. You know that, right? Can't just be throwing banana peels at Dave Chappelle. They're not gonna let you get away with this. And the press called me up like, do you have a statement? A statement? For a fucking banana peel? No, I don't have anything to say. This guy was like fucking famous for throwing a banana peel at me. 20 years from now, he's gonna be tucking his kids in the bed and the kid gonna be like, Daddy, tell him about the day that you threw that banana peel at that nigger in Santa Fe. Boy, I'll tell you what, that black motherfucker had it coming. I saw his name up on the marquee about a week before. I said, man, if I could just get close enough to meet him, throw a banana on that nigger and show him how. fucking banana gate. I didn't even want to press charges. You know, this has happened to me before. No, sir, it's not a banana. I live in Ohio, right? So this is like a few winters ago. Oh, I didn't know you would ever clap for that. Well, all right. That's the first time that shit's ever happened. Ohio! Anyway, I live amongst the whites. Small town in Ohio. And it was wintertime, and it had snowed recently, so there were huge snowdrifts on the street. I was walking with my sister. Now, my sister was dressed in all Muslim garb, as were her children. And I was dressed as Dave Chappelle. And we were walking and just talking about something, and a car sped around the corner, and the window came down, and somebody threw a snowball and hit me right in my shoulder. I didn't know what was going on. Why was this happening? Because I'm black, because she's Muslim, because I'm Dave Chappelle. I couldn't tell. But again, I knew it was premeditated. Because who the fuck has a snowball in a warm car? But they didn't think it all the way through, lady, because he went around the corner and got stopped at a red light. He was caught in the traffic. So then I ran out into the street and I just tapped on his window. Hey, my man, can I just talk to you guys for a second? Come on out for a second, I just want to talk to you. There's 4 young white dudes in the car. They were like, just chill, bro. I said, relax. I just want to talk. Now, this is an old black trick. Really, I didn't want to talk. I was going to fuck them up. So, if you're ever caught in traffic and a black guy starts saying he just want to talk to you, don't open the door, nigga. And even if he's me, smiling at you. And they were like, chill, bro, just chill. And then the one guy in the back seat, I don't know what, he was just cockier than his friends. He was like, fuck it, man. I'll get out the car. And I started yanking on his door. Let me help you, motherfucker. Let me just help you out. And I didn't notice his window was down. And he threw a snowball and shit hit me right in my chest. Pow. He said, fuck you, you fucking nigger. And then the light turned green and they sped off. And I smiled from ear to ear. I looked at my sister and she said, I got the plates. And I was happy as shit because throwing a snowball at a motherfucker is a misdemeanor assault. But if you call him a nigger when you do it, that's a felony hate crime. And me and my sister start dancing. We gonna send this motherfucker to jail. Now, I didn't notice it, but while I was yelling at him, a crowd of all white people had formed, because it was an all-white town. And I was like, uh-oh, I thought I was gonna get jumped. And one of them white guys stepped out and was like, I didn't like that at all. This is not what this town represents. I don't want this goddamn stuff in my vicinity. And another white guy was like, yeah, I didn't like it either. And then an old white guy stepped out of the crowd and said, young man, if you're going to fill out a police report, I would like to come with you and do the same. I said, you guys would do that for me? And the whole crowd said, hooray! I said, come on, y'all. I look like Malcolm X going to see Brother Johnson with a trail of white people. Unreal. An hour later, we was all just sitting in the police station, and the police came in, they're like, well, Mr. Chappelle, 16 identical police reports. We ran the tags, 2 young men that had their mother's car. We have all 4 suspects in holding. Their mother is here. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. If you want to press charges, we'll move forward. Mr. Chappelle, are you okay? Huh? Sorry about that, officer. I'm a little flustered. I've never been in a position where I could decide the fate of white children before, but it's weighing heavy on me, sir. And I really can't decide. And I saw a lady pacing back and forth in the hallway, and I said, is that? He goes, yes, that's their mother. Well, can I speak to her before I make a decision? And when the mom came in, she saw it was me. She busted out crying. Oh, God, oh, no, I don't want him to go to jail. I am so sorry. I didn't raise him to do this. We love your comedy. We love you at the house. I said, miss, please, just, all right, look, I don't necessarily want your son to go to jail either. But what he did was pretty fucked up. So is there something we can do short of jail just to let him know that he's wrong? She goes, oh, I don't know. What did you have in mind? Miss, I've never been in this position before. Oh, you know what we could do? I don't know if I'm asking too much, but maybe if you could just suck my dick a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not gonna finish. I just want you to do it enough so that I can tell him you did it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to anybody's mother. Maybe my kid's mom, but that's it. Everybody's mad about something. Recently, I got attacked online by some gay bloggers, and it hurt my feelings. I have no problem with gay people, but I fucking hate bloggers. I'm not saying it because this person was gay. They was acting like a bitch online. They was like mischaracterizing my jokes, trying to make a point off of me, when it's like, yo, I'm your ally, motherfucker. I'm not trying to stop gay people. I got better shit to do. This motherfucker was saying things to try to get gay people to beat me up. Seriously, he was like, Dave Chappelle's jokes. I don't know how he actually talks. I'm just making his voice up. Dave Chappelle's jokes were an affront to the manhood of all gay men. What the fuck does that mean? I didn't say anything that would allude to gay men not being men. I know you meant. In fact, what could be manlier than fucking another guy in the ass? It's the most gangster shit I've ever heard of in my life. I told you I'm not cut out for that. I'm a pussy. You know what I said? That's all I said. First of all, I'll tell you right now what I said. And I will tell you that this was not a joke. It's a true story. And I just happened to tell it. All right, what happened was I went to a gallery party, all right? I don't know who in here has ever been rich before, but these are very nice parties. You know, wine and cheese and ball of conversation. And there was a few eccentric types, one of which was a very wealthy man that happened to be wearing a dress. I don't know what you call him, man. This is a tranny or drag queen, perhaps. Whatever it was definitely a man. And this man was definitely on drugs. I don't know what kind of drugs he's on, but I knew he had too much. He didn't look good. It's like this, he's like, he looked sick. And all his friends were standing around him, concerned, trying to revive him. I don't know whether it looked like some kind of gay CPR. There was fanning and shit. I saw all this from a distance. Now, I should have minded my own business, but I got curious. I was like, oh. And I went over there. All I said, excuse me, gentlemen, is he okay? And then they looked at me like I was evil. She is fine. I said, word? Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't know this is what we were doing. Here's my thing. I would support anybody's right to be whoever they feel like they are inside. I'm your ally in that. However, my question is, to what degree do I have to participate in your self-image? Is it fair that I have to change my whole pronoun game up for this motherfucker? That didn't make sense. Seriously. If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey, everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan, that's not gonna work. Give a fuck how I feel. Why should I give a fuck how you feel? Nigger is a pronoun. But there was no time for philosophical debate. This was an emergency situation. I said, fine. Sorry, guys. I was just worried because she looks terrible. She just fell off the bench. Appears that her dick is popping out of her dress. You mind if I call an ambulance, champ? I'd rather not be at a party where a tranny ODs. There's too many questions to answer. Baba got me through a very difficult time in my marriage. We spend the most time together. Like, it's not that me and my wife don't spend time together, but we've been married so long, it's like we don't talk like, I don't know if anyone's married here, but if after 10 years, all that chatty shit goes away. You've said it all. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, we're just in the zone. She says the same shit to me every night before she goes to bed. I'll be the last one up. She's like, I'm gonna get some sleep, Dave. Good night. All right, babe, we'll stay up and watch television. Good night. And she'll walk halfway up the steps. David? Don't eat the kids' lunch. And then she walks away. Well, the crazy shit is I don't even eat their lunch anymore. Back in the day, I used to eat that shit. You know how that goes. I might smoke some weed in the middle of the night, and she'll leave neatly wrapped sandwiches all over the kitchen. I'm gonna eat it. What's the big deal? Why can't she just make another one in the morning? I mean, it's like, I got sons anyway. And sons love everything their dads do. My kids will be at school the next day, just look like, oh, Dad bit my sandwich. Oh, shit! Their dad is Dave Chappelle, man. You could trade that sandwich for something better. What I'm doing is adding value to their lunch. She doesn't understand these types of things. Anyway, she gets mad at me. Well, she's mad at me now because I got myself in trouble. I got myself extorted, which happens in this business. I come home from the road, there was a FedEx sitting on the kitchen table, and it was addressed to me, so I opened it. I don't know who delivered it. And there was a video cassette inside with a note written on it that said, gotcha. Oh my God, can you imagine? I freaked out. I tore the whole house apart. Trying to find the VCR. I hadn't seen a tape in like over a decade. And I watched the tape and it was awful. They got me. It was a tape of me. I was fucking a girl, okay? But it was from before I was married. But it was not a good look. And I felt sick to my stomach and I looked up at the clock and then I saw my wife was coming home in 10 minutes and I just panicked. I jerked off to the tape real fast and then and then I called the FBI. Who, by the way, made me feel much better. I mean, they didn't say they were gonna catch him for sure, but they had the demeanor of some competent people that would catch him. So I didn't worry about it too much. And then not even a week later, 5 days later, I come home and there's another video cassette just sitting on my porch. As soon as I saw it, I just called the police like, they've done it again. You should probably look for a guy with bell bottoms on because I don't know who the fuck is sending tapes. And that second tape was the worst shit I'd ever seen in my life. It was awful. Career-ending bad. It was a tape of me jerking off to the tape a week earlier. I don't even know how they'd even get such a thing. I had to explain all of this to my wife. Tonight I had done something, I'd like prepared something that I wanted to try. It was hard though, but I really wanted. It's the longest closer in the history of my career. I'm gonna do it, but boy, this is gonna take a lot of focus. So please don't yell out and distract me, just enjoy it. No, it's hard, you know, like, look, man, closing the show is everything. And closing the show in DC is very important. So tonight I'm gonna do 2 different closes. I'll do my closer for DC, and then after that, this bitch screamed like a car alarm. Did you hear that? Did everybody else hear that? Jesus Christ. All right, and then after that, if I can get to it, I'll do my closer from Saudi Arabia. All right, this is the tough one. Hey, do me a favor, production. Sex it up. Give me like comedy club lights. I love you too. All right, let me concentrate. When you see it, you'll understand this is harder than it's harder to do this than you think. Hold on. Go ahead, keep screaming. Give me a drink. I love you too, homie. Listen, I say this hoping that this brings somebody in this audience peace. I really do mean what I'm about to say. I know how it is right now. I understand how a lot of people feel. Turn your walkie down, champ. I know how a lot of you guys are feeling right now. You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Got that Bill Cosby. It's not gonna give me much time. I know how people are feeling right now, and I hope that this brings you peace. I feel that way too, without question. 1,000% without question, all of us, individually and collectively, are living through some sort of a conspiracy, I'm sure. That feeling you have that something is wrong, or you might feel like, hey, am I right about this? Am I crazy? No, nigga. No, you're not crazy. This thing you're feeling, I'm telling you, I feel it too. But here's what I suggest. If you don't know what the conspiracy is, then just say that. I don't know is an acceptable answer. In fact, if you don't know, it is the best answer. But all this fucking guessing out loud about what the conspiracy is, I'm begging you, please, shut the fuck up. You're gonna make everybody sick that way. You can say I feel, you can say I think or I suspect, or it looks to me like, but please, please stop saying you know. Because in times like this, the last person I trust is a nigga that's sure. This is madness. But here's what I think. Somehow this country went wrong. In 1910, I've narrowed it down to a specific dude. It has something to do, and think about what I say later, not now. It has something to do with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And the heavyweight championship, to this day, is the most prestigious title in sports. But in 1908, only white fighters had that distinction. Not because black fighters weren't good enough, but because no white fighter would give any black person the opportunity to lay their hands on them. And a guy named Tommy Burns became heavyweight champion. And Tommy Burns was an anomaly. He was Canadian. And he said, I am the heavyweight champion of the world. He's Canadian. You know how, faggy they are. He was like, he said, I am not the champion of Canada. I am not the champion of white men. I am the heavyweight champion of the world, and I will defend my championship against all comers. And boy, Jack Johnson got the opportunity to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, not from an American like he was, but from a Canadian. Now, you think that Americans would root for Jack Johnson because he was an American. No, this nigga was blacker than Wesley Snipes. Tommy Burns was at that time the shortest person to ever be heavyweight champion of the world. And Jack Johnson stepped in the ring and towered above him, and you know, he beat the fuck out of Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia. And all the white fighters from America were like, you see what we mean? Fighting those goddamn dirty fighting monkeys. Before Tommy Burns, the heavyweight champion, had retired, there was a man named Jim Jeffries. And everyone said Jack Johnson's not the real champion. They said Jim Jeffries is a real champion. And it's a good thing he's not fighting him. He'll beat your black ass, Jack Johnson. So Jack Johnson called out Jim Jeffries. It happened first in London. Jim Jeffries was in a parade in London, and Jack Johnson's black ass stepped out of the crowd. This nigga was dressed to the nines. He was very articulate. He said, I say, old boy, I sure would like to give you a wallop. And Jim Jeffries was just looking at him like, the fuck? And then Jim Jeffries was in a parade in Sydney, Australia, and Jack Johnson stepped out of the crowd again. I say, old boy, I sure do want to give you the old one, too. Jim Jeffries was looking like, how does this nigga have a passport? Again, this was 1910. The hallmark of Jack Johnson's character was audacity. There's a story about him that's a legend that says that one night he was caught speeding down a country road south of the Mason-Dixon line. And the police pulled Jack Johnson's black ass over. You know, this was 1910. He must have been flying 13, 14 miles an hour. The police stopped him. The police said, it costs $200 for a nigger to speed on our roads down here. Back then, $200 was like getting a $50,000 ticket. This nigga Jack Johnson didn't hesitate. He gave him $400. He said, I'm coming back this way. After months of persistence, Jim Jeffries relented, and Jack Johnson defended his title against Jim Jeffries on the 4th of July. This is where the phrase, the Great White Hope, came from. They were dying to find any white man that could put this nigga in his place. I'll tell you what, on the 4th of July, Jim Jeffries was not the guy. Jack Johnson fucked his ass up. And Jack Johnson did what they call in boxing, carried the fight, which means he could have knocked him out in the early rounds, but he didn't want to die. He wanted to make it look good, but when he got sick of it, because back then it wasn't no like 15-round fights. Niggas just fought till they couldn't fight anymore. When Jack Johnson got bored, put him away with a vicious right hook, and you see Jim Jeffries in the footage start to fall, but then the film cuts off. Because they didn't want any imagery of this nigga knocking out their hope. And on July 5th, all over the United States, there were riots, white riots, where they killed many black people to make sure that the rest of these niggas knew their place. Because Jack Johnson was the first black person to physically confront the color line and win. And here's the punchline. He didn't just leave the arena with his life. Jack Johnson had a very particular proclivity. He left the arena with his life and a white bitch. Let's talk about it. You see, Jack Johnson loved fucking white women. Almost exclusively, he would fuck white women. And man, the audacity of this nigga beating white men up and fucking their bitches. The black boxing world was elated. And every great black fighter celebrated Jack Johnson. And they came to Jack Johnson, they said, Jack, congratulations, can I get a title fight? And Jack Johnson, just like his white predecessors said, well, I don't fight black fighters. I'm in the business of beating up white guys and fucking their bitches. And one after another, they lined up the great white hopes, and Jack Johnson would vanquish them all. In fact, it took an act of Congress to stop him. Congressman named Mann from Illinois came up with an act called the Mann Act. The Mann Act is the law that says it is illegal to take a woman across state lines for the purposes of debauchery. And my line of work, gotta know shit like that. Jack Johnson got tried, prosecuted, convicted of the Mann Act, fled the country, was on the run for years, and it ruined his life. And then finally, in 1946, he died in the United States in a car crash. But before he died, and this is one of my favorite quotes that any American ever said, he said, I risked everything for my pleasure. You know, having freedom is one thing. Not having freedom is another thing. But using freedom that you don't have takes an enormous amount of courage, no matter how selfish you are with it. And Jack Johnson is an American riddle that we've got to solve. Not too long ago, but some years ago, I was here in Washington. I was at the MGM. At the National Harbor, and I wasn't performing. I was at a Stevie Wonder show, and Stevie Wonder didn't know I was there. I was on the side stage. I got there late. He was already doing a show, and this was a very special night. It was the night before Aretha Franklin's funeral. And Aretha Franklin was a very special person to me. The first time I ever played Radio City, she gave me a job as her opening act. Mean boss, but great artist. And Steve was on stage killing it. And then in the middle of his set, he started to sing a medley of all the songs that he had ever written for Aretha Franklin. And man, I gotta tell you, it was a lot. Huge hits that I didn't even know he wrote. And the crowd was grooving and celebrating her life. And just suddenly, in the middle of it, Stevie broke down crying, put his head down on the piano, and I could hear him sob. And I was drunk. And it hurts a man to hear another man cry. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, I must go to him. And I just walked down on stage. And you know, it was home. Like, when the crowd saw me, they started cheering. But Stevie didn't know it was me. That nigga was looking like that falcon. And I sat down next to him at the piano and I go, Steve, it's me. And then he smiled real big and we started cracking jokes and singing songs. And then after the show, we were backstage and he asked me, he said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm gonna fly to Detroit with you, pay my respects to Miss Franklin. And he said, no. At that time, the senator had just passed away. The late, great John McCain had passed away. And Stevie said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, John McCain is laying in state at the Capitol. He said, I want you to go pay our respects to him. And I said, nigga, I would much rather go to Detroit with you. And then Stevie gave me that look. He just looked like this, like, he didn't even know I was all the way over here, didn't he? So I went. The next day I went to the Capitol. I don't do this for anyone but Stevie Wonder. He can tell me to do anything within reason. The only thing he's told me to do that I won't do is stop smoking. That I won't do yet. But I did it. I waited in line, and then I got all the way up to Senator McCain's casket, and I was just like, Stevie Wonder sent me. Goodbye, nigga. And I just walked off. But that's what he wanted us. I did it. A lot of people don't know this, but people from Washington know this, who are my age. A lot of people don't know that Martin Luther King, unlike Charlie Kirk, had a harder time being remembered. That the only reason that Martin Luther King's birthday is a holiday is because the King family and Stevie Wonder lobbied very hard and very long for that holiday. People forget that what they call Black Happy Birthday, the Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday, was a protest song about making the King holiday a reality. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And it was so effective. Finally, the Senate voted on it. 99 out of 100 senators agreed to make that birthday a holiday. Except for one, John McCain. The guy that Stevie sent me to say goodbye to. What a great man Stevie Wonder is. How much this country could learn from a man like that. John McCain, God bless him, he got himself in a pickle for that vote, but it came back to get his ass years later. Years later, he was running for president and had to run against the first nigga to ever get a party nomination. And Barack Obama got that nomination on the anniversary of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And of all the votes in McCain's long career as a senator, that vote against that King holiday had never haunted him like it did at that time. So how did he counter that? I'll tell you what he did. If you remember, John McCain sponsored a bill to pardon Jack Johnson posthumously of the Mann Act. Yes, he did sponsor that bill to pardon Jack Johnson of the Mann Act. The Mann Act is precisely the law that Sean Puffy Combs was convicted of just recently. America's Unstoppable Nigger Act. That's why I don't go out no more. Just trying to chill. I'm just trying to live a peaceful life. That's why I live in Ohio. You know, I live in a little town in Ohio. It must be like 3,700 people, small hippie town. Culturally, it might feel like Ann Arbor to you. You know what I mean? Just a bunch of hippies and shit like that. And niggas always ask me, like, Dave, why you live in that hippie town? And I'd be embarrassed to tell them the truth. But you know why I live there? Because Yellow Springs, Ohio, has the most beautiful women in the world. And a lot of people might disagree with me, but you gotta see them for yourself. They're gorgeous. But it all depends on what you're into, you know what I mean? I like white bitches with dirty feet. If I had a strip club in Yellow Springs, I would call that shit strippies. All naked hippies all the time. And I'd only hire girls with long titties and long vagina hair that looks like they slept on it. And I would keep a pile of dirt right next to the stage. I come like, bitch, get your feet in that dirt and get up there and give those people what they came to see. Chalk up, bitch. I'm not a drug guy at all, right? But I am in show business, you know what I mean? So I've been to every kind of party. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, I smoke weed, but I don't consider weed a drug. But you know how show business is. I've been to cocaine parties, I've been to weed parties, I've been to all the parties, and I'm just telling you the truth, what I've seen. Coke bitches are way prettier than weed bitches are. I be looking at weed bitches like, damn, bitches, you sleep in those clothes? The fuck's going on with you? No energy in their face. They don't wear their bra all the time so the titties be sagging. Get your dick out of my face, man. That's how white girl sounds. Not gonna suck your cock, man. My mouth is dry as a bone. You ever get some weed head? Feels gross, doesn't it? Feels like a cat sucking your dick. Like, what kind of... How do you not have any moisture in your mouth? Bitch, go wet your whistle and try again, would you? Drink some water. Yuck. Yuck. I hate conspiracy theories, but I'll tell you one about, well, and this is not even a theory. This part I know is a fact. Did you know when I left DC and moved to New York in the 90s, the New York City Police Department had a hip-hop police task force? Did you know that? And this task force would follow anybody that was involved in hip-hop culture around. Not just rappers, drug dealers, because they thought that it was connected somehow. Even young comedians like me. Anybody that was just on that scene, they knew who everybody was and what everybody was doing. And back in those days, I used to go to nightclubs, but sometimes I'd go to a club and the lights would be a little bit different. And I didn't notice, but the OGs would pull me aside and be like, careful in the club, nigga. They got the FBI lights up. Which meant that the lighting was strange because the party was under surveillance and they were just telling me to watch my back. And you know, I wasn't doing anything wrong anyway, nigga, just having a good time. Now, did you know that that task force was invented originally to follow just two people around? Those people was a guy named Christopher Wallace, AKA the Notorious B.I.G., and Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, why is that? That this nigga has been under surveillance for at least 30 years, but just now they noticed that he racketeers and beats up bitches. I bet you, if he was doing all that, I bet you they seen him doing it for a long time. But why now? I don't know. It was strange in this case. Nobody called the police, except for Kid Cudi. And everybody called Kid Cudi a snitch. But he wasn't a snitch. A snitch is when two niggas do crime together and one of them gets caught and tells on the other one to get himself out of the trouble. Kid Cudi was violated by Puff. He alleged that Puff blew up his motherfucking Porsche with a Molotov cocktail and didn't stop there. He said he then alleged that Puff broke into his house and opened this nigga's Christmas gifts. Oh, nigga, I'd have been furious. And Kid Cudi said, I can't prove that he opened the gifts or nothing, but I came in the house and he was in there and the gifts was open and that nigga was just like, Merry Christmas, Playboy. So what was Kid Cudi supposed to do? He only got two choices. Either A, you're gonna have to do some gangster shit to this nigga that he's gonna have a hard time proving. Or if you're not built like that, and I do not believe that Kid Cudi is built like that, your last option is B. You gotta call the police. Good for Kid Cudi. He did the right thing. I, on the other hand, I'm built like that. If this nigga fuck my family's Christmas up, you better believe I'm gonna make him suffer for that shit. And niggas gonna come up to me and tell me all about it and not even know I did it. Oh my God, Dave. Oh. Did you hear what happened to Puffy? Oh my God, no. What happened? He was jogging by himself in Topanga Canyon. A falcon came out of nowhere and killed this nigga. Oh my God. Recently in the news, I've been getting a lot of grief again because I did a comedy festival in Saudi Arabia. And you hear those cheers? That's black people. America's whites, they're furious. Boy, I gotta tell you something. I've never not felt guilty about something like I've never felt. I don't feel guilty at all. You know, and Bill Maher, the famous comedian, I've known Bill since I was like 18, 19 years old, and I've never said this publicly, but fuck that guy. I'm so fucking tired of this little smug, cracker-ass commentary. These motherfuckers act like because I did a comedy festival in Saudi Arabia, I somehow betrayed my principles. Well, no, I know I didn't. I know. No. No, come on, everybody, let me do this. And I'm sure, all right, now everybody calm down. Now, I'm sure I'm right. First of all, what did they say? They said, well, Saudi Arabia killed a journalist, and rest in peace, Jamal Khashoggi. I'm sorry that he got murdered in such a heinous fashion, but, and no buts, like, you know, period, and also, I mean, look, bro, Israel's killed 240 journalists in the last 3 months, so I didn't know y'all was still counting. These niggas clown me because I was on stage in Saudi Arabia. I didn't tell them to put this in the paper. I just said it on stage. I said, it's easier to talk in Saudi Arabia for me than it is in America. And niggas felt some kind of way. Oh, I stand 10 toes on that. Don't forget what I just went through. 2 years ago, I almost got canceled right here in the United States for transgender jokes. But I gotta tell you something. Transgender jokes went over very well in Saudi Arabia. Them niggas couldn't get enough of that shit. I was in the pocket, nigga. I was like, where have you been? Every article said the comedians hoard themselves out to a dictator, but all the articles have my picture on it. And you know what? I can't even get mad, because, you know, to be fair, I did make more money than all of those comedians. I don't even work at Netflix no more, nigga. You know what my new job is? I sit by the phone and wait for them Arabs to call me. Can I help you guys? What do you need? I was on stage not long ago in the States, and niggas got mad because I said, well, you know, maybe Puff will get off. And I said, I hope so. And the crowd was like, boo. Okay, look, it's not that I think Puff is right, but when I got attacked in LA at the Hollywood Bowl, people forget Puff was the guy that tackled my attacker. He saved my life. It's a hard nigga to be mad at after that. I had security that night, but you know what I mean? Them niggas they just wasn't ready. Them niggas had some slippery shoes on or something. They ran out. All them niggas slipped and fell. And Puffy got my attacker and tackled him. And then years later, when I heard about that baby oil, I was like, what did those niggas slip on? 1,000 bottles of baby oil, that's a lie. But remember, he wasn't on trial for having 1,000 bottles of baby oil because it's not a crime to have 1,000 bottles of baby oil. It's gross. It's not illegal. And I'm gonna tell you something else I haven't said, but this is true. In LA one night, I shouldn't even tell, fuck it. I've been to Puffy's house. No, I didn't see none of the stuff they said in that trial. I walked to that nigga's living room, house was clean, traction on the floor, nothing slippery, walk right through. Perfectly normal evening. The only thing in hindsight, but at the time it didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't think about it until after I found all that stuff out, but in hindsight it was fucked up. But we was on this back patio, and we was drinking and laughing, talking, and then nigga Puff starts swirling his drink like this, and he goes, so Dave, he goes, what are you into? You know me, I was like, I don't know, nigga, books, video games, I didn't know that was my big chance to fuck Cassie. God bless her. I'm not making light of her. What she went through was terrible. But remember, because they kept showing this video of him beating her up in a hotel hallway, which is a terrible video. But he wasn't on trial for that. If you remember, he paid her for that before the federal charges ever came up. He paid her $35 million, is what I heard, which doesn't make it right, but I mean, come on, nigga. I do know niggas that have fought Floyd Mayweather for less money than that. And them niggas had to fight for 36 minutes. But Cassie is a gangster. She did something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. She had to testify about her sex life. Boy, that's tough. God save us all from that. Anything you say about sex publicly is gonna sound bad. Even if you're talking about fucking your wife face to face. If the judge is like, tell me about did you fuck your wife face to face? Yes, Your Honor, I did. But could you describe the account? Well, yes, I looked at her in her cold, bored eyes, and then I pulled those big panties aside, and it's like a bush that just screams, I don't give a fuck, and I just, you know what I mean? Just power through it, you know what I mean? Cassie had to do way harder than that. Them questions, they was asking her all kinds. Did Sean Combs pee in your mouth? I was like, oh my God. She didn't hesitate. Guess you're I'm sorry. I have a question for the audience, and this is a real question. I'm not joking around. Is it possible that a gay person can be racist? Do you really think so? Of course it's possible. Look at Mike Pence. No, I'm guessing, but I bet you he's gay. And he's not Pride Parade gay either. He's sad gay. Feel bad for him. He looks like one of them gays that prays about it. Jesus, please take these dirty feelings out of my heart. Please, Jesus, make these buttholes ugly to me. I don't want to keep on tasting these dicks. You guys are confusing the emotions. You think I hate gay people, and what you're really seeing is that I am jealous of gay people. Oh, I'm jealous. I'm not the only black person that feels this way. We blacks, we look at the gay community and we go, God damn it, look how well that movement is going. Look how well you are doing. And we've been trapped in this predicament for hundreds of years. How the fuck are you making that kind of progress? I can't help but feel like if slaves had baby oil and booty shorts, we might have been free 100 years sooner, you know what I mean? If Martin Luther King was like, I want everybody to get up on them floats, get your bodies good and shiny. I don't hate gay people at all. I respect the shit out of you. Well, not all of you. I'm not that fond of these newer gays. Too sensitive. Too brittle. Those aren't the gays I grew up with. I miss them old school gays, nigga. Them Stonewall niggas, them the ones that I respect. They didn't take shit from anybody. They fought for their freedom. I respect that shit. I'm not even gay. And I want to be like a Stonewall nigga. Them old school gangster gays, them glory hole niggas, them the ones I like. These new gays don't even know what the glory hole is. It's a hole in the wall the gay contractors built. You wanna know why they put that hole in the wall? I'll tell you, and there's no nice way to say it. Because when they wanna have some fun, they will put their penises in that hole and hope for the best. I respect that shit. There's a lot of courage on both sides of that hole, nigga. I'm not even gay, and I want to try that glory hole out. What if Martin Luther King had to integrate the glory hole? I don't care if it's black lips back there, white lips back there. A mouth is a mouth. A warm, wet mouth. I'd like to start by addressing the LGBTQ community directly. And I want every member of that community to know that I come here tonight in peace. And I hope to negotiate the release of the baby. Sad, sad, sad story. The baby was the #1 streaming artist until about a couple weeks ago. He took a nasty spill on stage and said some wild stuff about the LGBTQ community during a concert in Florida. Now, you know I go hard in the paint, but even I saw that shit and was like, God damn, the baby. Ooh, he pushed the button, didn't he? He pushed the button, punched the LGBTQ community right in the AIDS. Can't do that. Can't do that. But I do believe, and I'll make this point later, that the kid made a very egregious mistake. I will acknowledge that. But, you know, a lot of the LGBTQ community doesn't know the baby's history. He's a wild guy. He once shot a nigga and killed him in Walmart. Oh, this is true. Google it. The baby shot and killed a nigga in Walmart in North Carolina. Nothing bad happened to his career. Do you see where I'm going with this? In our country, you can shoot and kill a nigga, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings. Anyway, I give all married men the same advice, gay or straight. Get a dog. This dog will love you all the time, but she's not going to. It's real talk. I didn't even know about dogs, and my kids got the dog. They brought him home from the shelter, and I didn't even want him. They were like, "Can we keep him?" I said, "Nope." I said, "Where'd you even get this dog?" They're like, "We got him from the shelter." I was like, "Ugh. Probably something wrong with him. Can't keep him." And then my kids started crying and screaming like the dog had gambling debts. "Please, Dad, if you don't let us keep him, they're gonna kill him." I was like, "Oh. All right, you can keep him." And this dog was a menace. I hated his guts. Then one night I'd smoked a bunch of weed and I was eating a sandwich. And Baba came over. Baba's the dog. He came over and was staring at me. This will make you very uncomfortable if you're just looking at you usually. I had to give him a piece of my sandwich so he'd go away. And that's how we became friends. Now, if you see me walking down the street with Baba, I ain't got no leash or nothing. He walks right next to me. If I stop, he'll stop. And if I go, he'll go. And all my friends are like, "Yo, Dave, that shit is dope. How you train Baba to do that shit?" I've never trained Baba. I'm just a messy eater. If I drop food and Baba's not around, all I gotta do is call him. "Baba!" He's a black dude's dog, so he doesn't come right away. He peeks first to see what's going on. I gotta tap my foot so he can see the food. "Over here, little buddy." And he's like, "Thanks, Dave." And he'll come get it and run off. But he knows all my habits. Like if he smells weed in the house, he'll be like, "Nah, this motherfucker's about to eat." And he'll just come running. I also saw a lot of videos of UFOs. I mean, what the fuck has been going on with that shit? These niggas are here. These UFOs keep coming to Earth, and it made me think of an idea for a movie. It sounds dumb, but hear me out. In my movie idea, we find out that these aliens are originally from Earth. That they're from an ancient civilization that achieved interstellar travel and left the Earth thousands of years ago. Some other planet they go to, and things go terrible for them in the other planet. So they come back to Earth and decide that they want to claim the Earth for their very own. It's a pretty good plot line, huh? I call it Space Jews. Space Jews. All right. It's gonna get worse than that. Hang in there. It's gonna get way worse than that. I was waiting for somebody to do something about the homeless. You know what's fucked up about D.C.? We the nation's capital, and nobody even gives a fuck about the homeless. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I feel like I'm the only one that does. Now, y'all don't know this, but quietly, for the last 2 years, I have been secretly working with Washington's homeless, and I have spent $2 million already on my homeless project. No, don't clap for me. I didn't give them food or anything like that. I just taught these niggas to Thriller dance. And you got a big treat coming up on Halloween, you'll see. I love hip-hop music. I love many of the people that make that music. They taught me things and showed me things that I'd never seen for myself. Good things. For example, I was in Atlanta once. I'm almost done. Hang in there, champ. I was in Atlanta, and a rapper named T.I. called me up. Now, at this time, I didn't know him well. I know him better now, but I knew him well enough that he'd have my phone number. And the nigga called me up. He was like, "Dave, I heard you was in my city. He said, I want to show you the real Atlanta. I said, fuck yeah, nigga, let's go. He said, meet me downstairs in your hotel valet. So I went downstairs. I thought he was fucking around, but when I went down there, he was outside in the valet, sitting in a purple Phantom. This car must have been $1.5 million. Beautiful purple color with ivory white seats. It's the kind of car that you gotta have a chauffeur to drive, but for some reason, this nigga was driving it himself. And I didn't ask no questions. I just jumped in the car, and man, he showed me Atlanta, everything. Outkast and them started rapping over there, and Future used to play in the playground over here. And then he sold the car up and he pointed to a house and he goes, and Martin Luther King grew up in that house right there. And he raised his children over here. And that's the church he preached in over there. And then we stopped at a red light, and these little black kids rushed the car from either side of the intersection with water bottles. These kids in Atlanta, if you know, they're called the water boys. Their whole hustle is they sell water to people who are stuck in that hot Atlanta traffic. I didn't know that. I just saw these young niggas running up on the car, so I locked the door like, fuck that. But T.I. rolled his window down, started giving the kids orders. Slow down, don't just run up on somebody's car. You don't know what they got in there. And smile so you look less threatening. And remember your manners. Yes, sir, no ma'am, please, thank you. That'll keep you alive. And keep that condensation on that water so it looks refreshing and delicious. And then that kid realized that he was talking to a legend. He said, oh my God. He said, thanks, T.I., and held his hand out for some money. And that nigga T.I. looked at him and said, I done gave you the game, and rolled up the window and drove away. This happens far too often. Another time, about 6 years ago, there was a lesbian woman that tried to sell a story about me to TMZ. Thank goodness TMZ could see right through the sham of that story. This woman claimed that I beat her up in a nightclub because she was a lesbian. That is fucking crazy. Bitch, I didn't even know you was a woman. Thank God TMZ didn't believe that. Because I did beat the shit out of her, I'm not gonna lie. It was her fault, I had no choice. I came in the club minding my own business, and a woman came up to me, she goes, oh my God, Dave Chappelle. And I was just being reciprocally nice. Hey, miss, how are you, blah, blah, blah. Benign talk, nothing to it. And all of a sudden, this lesbian fellow stepped between us. Hey, nigga, that's my girl. I said, yo, my man, back up, like that. She said, I ain't backing up off shit, nigga, that's my girl. I said, bro, you're gonna have to give me 3 feet like this. She said, stop calling me a man, motherfucker. I'm a woman. I said, what? And then I looked deep in this nigga's cheekbones. I said, oh my God, you are a woman. It's just too much for me to even wrap my mind around. But I tell you what, I unballed my fist immediately, and I softened my posture so that she would know she's in no danger. I even changed the tone of my voice. I said softly, sweetly, like a pimp might say. Bitch, I'm about to slap the shit out of you. I shouldn't have done it. Oh, I wish I didn't say that. She dropped that foot back. Boop, she was in a perfect southpaw stance. Her shoulders were angled correctly. Her head movement was good. I said, oh no! This bitch boxes for real. She threw a wild hook at me and I saw it coming from yesterday, so I slipped it like this. I had no choice. I had to go to work. I let that jab go. You should have seen me go, nigga. I tenderized them titties like chicken cutlets. I whooped the toxic masculinity out of that bitch. It's fucked up, man. It's a tough time for the blacks. I love you too. And then here comes the banana peel. I'm waiting on it any second. You know, that's how it starts. I saw in the paper today that the guy that threw the banana at me got arrested again because he threw a banana at another motherfucker in a bar in Santa Fe. Look it up online after the show. He actually did that. And that guy was black too. I'm just saying. And you know what a guy said he did it at night? He said, I did it because Dave Chappelle is racist. So, nigga, that's not the best way to handle that if I am racist. What if Martin Luther King just went around throwing tuna casserole on white people? Would that work? Huh? I seen your girl bubbling. She's drunk as hell, buddy. Listen, sir, I don't know what she's saying, but just take my advice. Get some water in her, or you're gonna have some dry pussy when you get home. His dick's gonna be shaped the fuck up tomorrow. Santa Maria. Who got a cigarette in here? Anyone got a cigarette I can borrow? Yeah, you fella. Yeah, please. Well, let me see this. This is a Marlboro menthol. This could have been anybody. If it was a Newport, I'd be like a black dude threw that up. But a Marlboro menthol, that's one of them riddles. That night, I did my show, and when I got off stage, T.I. was backstage with a friend of his that I didn't know. I just knew his friend was somebody because everyone was acting all excited that he was back there. So I asked him, I go, yo, Tip, who's your man? And he's like, oh, that right there? He goes, that there is the future of hip hop. And I was like, nigga, will you just calm down? So then I asked the dude, I said, yo, my man, I said, what's your name? And the dude looked over, he said, I'm Nipsey. And this was Nipsey Hussle. I'm not gonna go all into it, but I gotta tell you, that night, me and T.I. and Nipsey went out, and we had a fucking blast. Good time, not a freak-off fun, but fun. So much so that when I got home from the road, and my wife always asked me, she goes, Dave, how was your trip? Normally I'm just like, it was good. But this time I was like, babe, I met the coolest nigga. I said, this nigga's younger than me, but it's like he's older than me. And she's like, what? She goes, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know, bitch. She's like, it's like hanging out with a fortune cookie. This nigga just had an answer for everything. I told her all about Nipsey. And what was funny about it is years later, I saw Nipsey's widow, and she pulled me aside. I'd never met her. And she said, I just want to tell you that my husband loved you. She said, he said he met you in Atlanta, and you had a wonderful time. I said, boy, that's fucking crazy. We sure did. Not long after I met Nipsey, I was in LA doing a show. And then after the show, I got a text from a guy that says, I'm at a party you need to be at. And I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And he's like, no, nigga, you have to come to this party. So I'm thinking this must be the freak off, finally. And the party was at a place that I'd been to a million times, so I wasn't excited about being in that place. But when I walked in, it just was different. It was popping. And it turns out that the party was for Nipsey. Nipsey had been nominated for Rap Album of the Year, and everyone that he would have ever respected was at the party. T.I. was there, Snoop was there, Jay-Z was there, Puffy, before we knew he did all that stuff, was there. I was there, on and on and on. And as good as the party was, when I was partying, I was having fun, but I had a pit in my stomach because it reminded me of the 90s. And you can believe me or you cannot believe me. I'm just telling you how I saw and how I felt. They had the FBI lights up. I just felt like, man, this party's under surveillance, but I didn't think too much of it. And then I went back home to Ohio and I was taking a nap and my wife shook me awake and she had tears in her eyes and she said, David. I said, what's going on with you? She said, your friend is dead. And I'm old now, so I'm like, bitch, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. I know niggas with gout. But it was Nipsey. And this is why I feel for Charlie Kirk's fans, because I know what it's like to see someone you look up to and admire gunned down by a fucking nobody. Oh my God. It's so hard to accept that. And if you looked on the internet and saw all those terrible videos, because there was a very gory video of Nipsey's murder too, and then I looked in the comment section and the internet was doing what it does and everyone was coming up with one conspiracy theory after another, but the one that I kept seeing the most involved a holistic doctor in New York City. Have you heard it? It's a doctor named Dr. Sebi. In the mid-90s, during the height of the AIDS epidemic, a black holistic doctor in New York named Dr. Sebi claimed that he cured 2 people of AIDS and HIV holistically. And at that time, that was an illegal claim to make in the United States because of the FDA. So the federal government took Dr. Sebi to court, and New York State took Dr. Sebi to court. And Dr. Sebi beat both cases. And Nipsey Hussle, unbeknownst to many, was making a documentary. He was producing it about Dr. Sebi's work and his life. And people on the internet believe that larger powers killed Nipsey Hussle to keep that information from you and I. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But here's what I think. Somehow this country went wrong. In 1910, I've narrowed it down to a specific dude. It has something to do, and think about what I say later, not now. It has something to do with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And the heavyweight championship, to this day, is the most prestigious title in sports. But in 1908, only white fighters had that distinction. Not because black fighters weren't good enough, but because no white fighter would give any black person the opportunity to lay their hands on them. And a guy named Tommy Burns became heavyweight champion. And Tommy Burns was an anomaly. He was Canadian. And he said, I am the heavyweight champion of the world. He's Canadian. You know how, faggy they are. He was like, he said, I am not the champion of Canada. I am not the champion of white men. I am the heavyweight champion of the world, and I will defend my championship against all comers. And boy, Jack Johnson got the opportunity to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, not from an American like he was, but from a Canadian. Now, you think that Americans would root for Jack Johnson because he was an American. No. This nigga was blacker than Wesley Snipes. Tommy Burns was at that time the shortest person to ever be heavyweight champion of the world. And Jack Johnson stepped in the ring and towered above him, and you know, he beat the fuck out of Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia. And all the white fighters in America were like, you see what we mean? Fighting those goddamn dirty fighting monkeys. Before Tommy Burns, the heavyweight champion, had retired, there was a man named Jim Jeffries. And everyone said Jack Johnson's not the real champion. They said Jim Jeffries is a real champion. And it's a good thing he's not fighting him. He'll beat your black ass, Jack Johnson. So Jack Johnson called out Jim Jeffries. It happened first in London. Jim Jeffries was in a parade in London, and Jack Johnson's black ass stepped out of the crowd. This nigga was dressed to the nines. He was very articulate. He said, I say, old boy, I sure would like to give you a wallop. And Jim Jeffries was just looking at him like, the fuck? And then Jim Jeffries was in a parade in Sydney, Australia, and Jack Johnson stepped out of the crowd again. I say, old boy, I sure do want to give you the old one, too. Jim Jeffries was looking like, how does this nigga have a passport? Again, this was 1910. The hallmark of Jack Johnson's character was audacity. There's a story about him that's a legend that says that one night he was caught speeding down a country road south of the Mason-Dixon line. And the police pulled Jack Johnson's black ass over. You know, this was 1910. He must have been flying 13, 14 miles an hour. The police stopped him. The police said, it costs $200 for a nigger to speed on our roads down here. Back then, $200 was like getting a $50,000 ticket. This nigga Jack Johnson didn't hesitate. He gave him $400 and said, I'm coming back this way. After months of persistence, Jim Jeffries relented, and Jack Johnson defended his title against Jim Jeffries on the 4th of July. This is where the phrase, the Great White Hope, came from. They were dying to find any white man that could put this nigga in his place. I'll tell you what, on the 4th of July, Jim Jeffries was not the guy. Jack Johnson fucked his ass up. And Jack Johnson did what they call in boxing, carried the fight, which means he could have knocked him out in the early rounds, but he didn't want to die. He wanted to make it look good, but when he got sick of it, because back then it wasn't no like 15-round fights, niggas just fought till they couldn't fight anymore. When Jack Johnson got bored, put him away with a vicious right hook, and you see Jim Jeffries in the footage start to fall, but then the film cuts off. Because they didn't want any imagery of this nigga knocking out their hope. And on July 5th, all over the United States, there were riots, white riots, where they killed many black people to make sure that the rest of these niggas knew their place. Because Jack Johnson was the first black person to physically confront the color line and win. And here's the punchline. He didn't just leave the arena with his life. Jack Johnson had a very particular proclivity. He left the arena with his life and a white bitch. Let's talk about it. You see, Jack Johnson loved fucking white women almost exclusively. He would fuck white women. And man, the audacity of this nigga beating white men up and fucking their bitches. The black boxing world was elated. And every great black fighter celebrated Jack Johnson. And they came to Jack Johnson, they said, Jack, congratulations, can I get a title fight? And Jack Johnson, just like his white predecessors said, well, I don't fight black fighters. I'm in the business of beating up white guys and fucking their bitches. And one after another, they lined up the great white hopes, and Jack Johnson would vanquish them all. In fact, In fact, it took an act of Congress to stop him. Congressman named Mann from Illinois came up with an act called the Mann Act. The Mann Act is the law that says it is illegal to take a woman across state lines for the purposes of debauchery. And my line of work, gotta know shit like that. Jack Johnson got tried, prosecuted, convicted of the Mann Act, fled the country, was on the run for years, and it ruined his life. And then finally, in 1946, he died in the United States in a car crash. But before he died, and this is one of my favorite quotes that any American ever said, he said, "I risked everything for my pleasure." You know, having freedom is one thing. Not having freedom is another thing. But using freedom that you don't have takes an enormous amount of courage, no matter how selfish you are with it. And Jack Johnson is an American riddle that we've got to solve. Keep that information from you and I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'll tell you something that I do know. The greatest comedian I've ever seen with my own eyes is Charlie Barnett. Charlie Barnett, a New York street comedy legend. He only did comedy on the streets, and I was lucky enough to meet him. He was a mentor of mine. Charlie Barnett was so good at performing on the streets that from the streets, he booked himself a job on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, but the week of rehearsals, they found out that he couldn't read. So they fired him and replaced him with Eddie Murphy. Oh, it could have been beautiful. But you gotta be able to read to do Saturday Night Live. I know y'all saw Bad Bunny last week. I'm not knocking him, and that nigga's reading, you know what I mean? Charlie Barnett wasn't deterred. He kept pushing. And he went on to do movies like DC Cab, which is where I first saw him. He used to be on Miami Vice. This motherfucker became a star in his own right. But the thing that kept derailing him is that Charlie was a terrible drug addict. This nigga started doing crack to quit heroin. He was doomed. He learned how to do street comedy from a guy named Swami X, and Swami X didn't just teach him how to do comedy, he taught him how to get high, and Charlie never could shake it. And when Charlie mentored me, even though he was a terrible drug addict, I never saw him high. He never wanted to do to me what Swami did to him. He made sure I understood that cocaine is just not for you, even though those bitches are prettier than them ugly weed bitches you be hanging out. One night, I saw Charlie in a comedy club, and he looked terrible. And this guy would avoid me if he was getting high, but I'd never seen him look this bad. So I said to him, I said, "Charlie, you good?" And he didn't say anything. And I said, "Are you high?" And he laughed. He said, "No, nigga, I'm not high." He said, "I'm dying." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I'm dying. I have AIDS, and I'm dying." Now, I must have been 18 or 19. I'd never met nobody that I knew of that had AIDS, but I gotta tell you, that shit had me shook. And then I started thinking of all his jokes, and he was hinting at it for years. The nigga used to have a joke where he said, "I took an AIDS test yesterday, I got a 65. Another time he was on stage at the Apollo, and he told the crowd, "There's good and bad and everything." And the crowd was like, "Yeah." He said, "So what's good about crack?" And you know, everybody in Harlem was like, "Nothing." And he said, "Shit, crack brought the price of pussy down to $5. But when he said he had AIDS, I was so shocked that I looked at him to see if he was joking, and I knew. I said, he's serious. And I said, fuck that shit. He said, what you mean? I said, you're not gonna die around me, nigga. That's not your destiny. He said, what are you talking about? And I took Charlie Barnett to Dr. Sabi. This is a fact. And Dr. Sabi treated Charlie Barnett for 3 months. This is a crazy story. I could make a whole movie about it. It's a long story, so I'll spare you. But the point of the story is, Charlie died of AIDS. You know, all last year, I was touring with arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, living comedian, Chris Rock. Me and him toured all year last year. And right before that tour started, Chris was involved in what we blacks might even consider a goddamn 9/11. Chris got slapped in the face at the Oscars by Will Smith, which was one of the craziest things I'd ever seen. In fact, if you watch it live on television like I did, when it happened, I thought it was fake. I did, and I wasn't sure, so you know what I did? I waited, because unlike you, I know Chris. I waited like 30, 40 minutes, as long as it would take him to get to another party. And I called him on FaceTime, and he picked up. As soon as he picked up, he said, "You was the only nigga I had to answer the phone for." Apparently, Obama and Oprah, everybody had called this nigga to see if everything was all right. And I thought it was fake. I didn't know. So I asked him, I go, well, you know. He said, what? I said, well, did it hurt? And he said, yes, nigga, it hurt. And then I knew that it was real. And then, and only then, was I offended. And I wasn't just offended that he got slapped. That was only half of it. The real offensive part was that after he slapped him, this nigga Will just sat down and enjoyed the rest of his evening. It was crazy. It was just... The fuck is this? And then all year, we was touring, and I couldn't wait to see what he was gonna say in his special about this slap. And I toured him all year, but the night he taped his special, Chris was one of these guys, he's crafty. You never know what he's gonna say till he really says it. So I went to see him tape his special. He taped it right up the street in Baltimore. Now, you guys are from DC, so you know about Baltimore. We all know that through the years, DC has been through some very, very tough times. Sadly, Baltimore is still in a very tough time. Not everybody in the world really can understand the depth of Baltimore. Baltimore is so desperate that Tupac and his mother moved from Baltimore to Oakland for a better life. And Chris Rock went so hard in the paint, and I can't believe he did this, he shocked a Baltimore crowd. I didn't even know that was possible. I started doing comedy around here. Shocked them. And you know what he said that got him? He looked at the crowd, he walked out. I didn't expect him to say this. He looked at the crowd, it's all black, Baltimore black. Even if you rich and black in Baltimore, you know them niggas is traumatized about something. And Chris shocked him, and this is what he said. He went to that crowd. He said, I refuse to be a victim. And the crowd said, oh. And I was backstage looking like, nigga, watch the tape. I know it's fucked up, but I'll tell you the truth. You know, everything's funny. Everything's funny till it happens to you. 3 months, a mere 3 months after that terrible attack that Chris Rock endured, Do you know this strip club in D.C. called Camelot? Is that still open? Well, I know what I'm doing after the show. I gotta tell you. The other day, my wife called me creepy. You know, I frequent strip clubs. I don't want, it's something I like to do. And my wife said I was creepy because I go to strip clubs by myself. Is that creepy? I think that's better than going with the fellas. That's creepy to me. Hey, y'all, let's all go to the strip club and get our dicks hard together as a group of friends. Drive home in a quiet car and not talk about any of the things we've seen or done. No, nigga, I go by myself. But my wife doesn't understand why I go to the strip club. It has nothing to do with sex, you understand? I need a pinch of sexual energy in a room to relax, but it's more about being out. I like the music. A few naked chicks in there, it just makes me feel good. But I'm not trying to like socialize or meet anybody. You know, sometimes I go to the strip club and I bring a book. I do, and I sit right by the stage because the reading light is better. One time I went to a strip club, and this is weird. I don't know why. The stripper, for some reason, told me her real name. I know, so I left. She didn't understand. She was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Good night, Deborah."